I became homeless due to mental health, mental illness, and it took its toll on me. And of course, I had to, later on, battling with it on my own. It wasn't working. You know how you get sick and tired of being sick and tired? Well, that was the case with me.
I got very injured on the job, and I contracted sepsis, and I was just too stubborn to go to the doctor, and it just got worse and worse and worse. And it was also simultaneously I was losing my housing down in Redondo Beach, and so it was just the perfect storm.
I returned from serving in the Air Force, and at first I was just couch surfing. It became too much to be around anybody. My emotional and anger issues took over, as well as jumping headfirst into alcohol. I quickly took on crystal meth. It helped with the PTSD. It helped me stay super aware, and it also made being homeless a little bit more bearable.
Venice Beach was my goal. So I come to Venice Beach, I didn't even think about it. So I stayed there for about a year until they took my van because the tags was a month overdue. And that's how my life began, really on the street.
The worst things about being homeless, there's so many, but the shame would be one of the top things that really affect a person.
Sleeping on the streets, where there are some people out there that do harm to people sleeping on the streets, which I was a victim of once.
It's a tricky situation because you have some serious demonic people out there. There's good people, but there's characters.
I think the worst thing about being homeless was just not knowing what the next day what tomorrow would bring. It was just foreign to me, of just not being in control of my life. That was pretty difficult.
I would wonder how long I'm gonna be out here, because I knew people who was out there 10 years. I seen people who died right there on the bench. My friends, they would be found the next morning. They just died. I seen people die in the pagoda and stuff like that. They just die. I'd come to the conclusion, this is how I'm probably going to die.
One day I was sleeping at the bench over by the bluffs over there by the beach. Real tired with 2 baskets. And the next thing I saw all these police cars, Santa Monica police car around me. And I said, Jesus, what did I do? So I said, well, what should I do from here? They said, well, go up the street, and OPCC is up the street. There's a shelter, actually, that's what they told me. So I said, wow, a shelter.
For 20 years before I became homeless, I would come in with friends and we would cook at the various shelters around town, and I'd volunteer all the time. So they just really embraced me. And that I felt safe for the first time in a really long time. And that was powerful. That was really powerful. And it made me want to move forward. They were giving me an opportunity and I was not gonna blow it.
I called New Directions and I just started crying. They asked me one question, I still can't remember what that question was, and I just sobbed. I knew that my life was unmanageable. And I left for New Directions 3 days later.
St. Joseph guided me started again on straight and narrow, and I didn't know what they were, but they came and that was what it was about. They was getting people who was homeless information. And I didn't think anything about it until I went in there one day and he came up and said, hey, Rick, you ain't got your place yet? I said, place? Within a month's time, I had a place. I actually had living quarters.
I got housing through New Directions. I spent the best 18 months of my life with New Directions. They helped me get housing. I live in my own apartment now with my own door, my own key, and I actually have goals. They help me get my life back at New Directions.
Well, what they did mostly for me was just give me the chance to, I begged for the chance. I said, if you put me in this 6-month program, I guarantee you I will be a success story. And it happened.
It's just wrong, man. People don't understand the stuff you go through in this houseless situation.
It is a very difficult thing to understand. You know, there's such a wide spectrum of what homeless needs, in my opinion. Some of it's situational.
It's not just one type of disability, it's enormous difference of disability out there.
So I see sometimes for people it's easier to be on the street.
Now, you asked me about the life that I'm having now. It's a great life. I'm ready to get back started with my painting again.
I want to buy a house one day, so I'm working on my credit. I go to school every day. I'm just about to finish my 2nd year in college.
I've been with OPCC as a member and a client for the past, give or take, maybe 10 years now. We have a program named Paid Forward. And that's exactly what I'm doing, that my heart tells me to do.
And I go home. It's the best part.
I feel very empowered. You know, it's like, well, if I want this, I have to work for it, and I have to budget. And this is the first time in my life I've ever been, I finally grew up. It took me to become homeless to finally grow up.
Oh, we're doing great, man. Our lives is blessed because a little help from some friends from St. Joseph. Y'all been great for us, and you've been there all along the way, and God bless you.